What does it mean to you to have Christian parents and grandparents in your life?
I love it.
You love it. What do you love about it?
That they take care of us and that they love us and that they're kind to us and they take care of us.
Mm-hmm. How do you feel when you go to church?
I feel amazing.
You feel amazing. Is it special to you to have family that
Yes.
teaches you about Jesus?
Yes.
Yeah. Does it make you want to learn more?
Yeah.
Yeah. Those are such good things.
And I like More Academy even though I said I didn't.
And I just have a wonderful family and caring.
It matters to you. Yeah. Say hello to 4 generations of the Moore family. They have intentionally invested into their legacy of faith. So we sat them down to ask them some questions, and they gave us a glimpse into that journey. Let's hear what they have to say.
Well, I was raised in the Catholic Church, and we went faithfully every week. And if we didn't go, it seemed like there was something missing.
Really don't know what it was like not going to church. So, I mean, it's just something you did every week, and it was just something you did. Yeah, I mean, every Sunday you got ready, you went to church, Sunday school, came home.
For me, it helped instill that as I got older and went to Milligan, still got up. Someone wasn't there taking me, but it was, like Sue said, it's part of your everyday, it's your week. It doesn't start off right unless you're in church and getting that worship.
That's right.
In a time frame where it's sports on Sundays and things like that, I don't hold practices as a varsity level coach. I don't hold practices or workouts on Sundays and things like that because I just think it's important to show people and kids that church comes before everything else. And our family has tried to make a point not to do that with our kids, starting activities, and we didn't really do that growing up. We didn't miss very often for things like that. So we always felt that was pretty important. It was always kind of instilled to us that it was important, and in the generation that we live in now, where it seems less important, I think that it's good to have people that think differently, that emphasize that church's number one priority.
I think it basically came from my mom regarding coming to Blanchard, and I think it was our best decision. There was like many kids above us and below us that we knew them outside of church as well as inside of church. She worked for Keystone Central, so most of the employees at Liberty Curtain were all local, so she fit in there, and then they invited her to come to check out the Blanchard Church of Christ. And we were small. I think maybe I was maybe 6 years old. We were talking last night. And so Arla would have been 3.
I don't remember them going
Yeah.
to church.
But it was a Bible church. It was different, but I'm happy where I'm at, and I'm happy that Russell's a minister. We've gone to this church, many ministers. Some retire, some go into a different field or whatever. And I think when Russell came, being a younger minister than what we've ever had before, I think he bonded with a lot of people, and that just makes everything more of an impact on you. You want to be a part of this.
What is it like for the rest of you to have Christian parents and grandparents?
For me, it was good role models. Like, I know my grandparents, they would have been, I couldn't even tell how many years they were married, but when Pat passed away, he was 87, and even I just remember looking at then, like, the last thing he said to my grandma was, "I love you." And I think in a Christian environment, you learn that no matter what you're going through, you've got each other, and it's that, the threefold, it's the marriage, but God's with you. So it's not just a husband and wife, but God's with you, and I think that's important because that's always there in the back of your mind, trying to make it work and get through every little obstacle. One thing about being raised in a Christian home, some of my earliest memories are sitting on the floor in front of my Pat, and we had story time at night, but it was out of the Bible. It was a Good News Bible. It was white, it had orange strips, and Good News Bible. I'll never forget that. But those are some of my earliest memories, is having Bible stories and not just, big bad wolf story.
Right.
That's when we learned our Bible stories.
Is that something that you have passed on to your family?
Oh, we read David and Goliath a lot. Yes, we do read. They have the Bibles that they got from the church, and they know which ones they want to pick out by the picture, but they know what story it is, and we read them. Yes. What Bible story do we like to read?
Huh? Which one? Whoop. David Goliath? No, Hulk doesn't belong to the Bible.
What Bible story do we have to read all the time?
Huh?
Which one? Goliath.
Oh,
Who's Goliath?
Goliath's the big guy. He's
The-
a giant.
oh.
What did he do? I forget.
What happened to Goliath?
He got hit by the stone. Okay. In his forehead.
Who hit him?
David.
That's right.
Oh, very good.
With the stone.
That's
Right.
The one with the
Ow. Easy. It's your head. You'll be falling asleep on my shoulder.
What is the importance of a Christian marriage?
I think it's a lot more difficult if your spouse is a non-believer. It's much easier to be a believer, and I think that you're able to raise have your family. Things go, I think, more smoothly when you both love the Lord and try to follow Him.
And it's the ideal way to raise kids too. I mean, they see how you are, they grow up, they become the same way, generation to generation to generation.
I think it's important because there's no question of what you want your child
Right.
to know or think. You're not saying, well, I believe this, and they don't necessarily believe. If they're both Christians and you're raising them in a Christian home, everyone kind of has the same mindset.
Yeah.
There's one way to heaven, that's Jesus, and that's what you're teaching your kids together. And you're working together, and they're not having one praying with them at night and not the other one saying, oh, you don't need to do that. You're working together. You're teaching them together. And I think that's important because they see the unity, which then also reflects back to a Christian marriage. Is you see that they're working together side by side. So I think that's very important.
I'm even in a mustache. Yeah.
You know, it's a different kind of family structure, I think. When you're raised in a Christian home, when you're raised with moral values, if you set aside like the Christian end of it, people can teach good values, but when you bring the Bible into it and you bring how relative it is to your life, I think that's the important part. And when you can instill that, and based off of the situation that our country's in today, if more people, I feel, were raised in Christian homes with Christian values, we'd have less hate and we'd have less, unrest in our country. I just think that, like we've been hearing in messages at church, the more love that gets spread, I think the better. And I think that would, from leadership down to Joe Schmo on the ground here, I think it all the way around needs to be, that kind of a message, Jesus's message. And I think when that comes from your Christian home and it's instilled, and you raise the next generation in that, I think it makes a big difference. I know that, we try and do the things that Mom and Dad, did with Brian and I. We try and pray with the kids every night, and we're constantly, they pray for the girls on my soccer team and different things like that. They're constantly asking those questions, and I think that's important, that we keep doing that, and we keep instilling a prayer life and and good values of how to treat people. I think that sometimes that's lost in our world.
So what does that look like in your marriage?
Holly was really, when we got married, and part of the marriage ceremony was, you see it done in different ways with cords. We chose sand, and, there's got to be that Jesus has got to be in the middle of your marriage. Marriages don't have the same, I think, the same happiness that they could have, without Jesus in your marriage or in your family structure. So I just know that it's been more beneficial in my marriage to have someone who feels the same way and who's on the same level and in the same involvement and the same love for Jesus, and is able to instill that into our children. It'd be difficult if one parent was a believer and one wasn't. I think that it would make for a tough tough way to raise your kids.
Do you have a favorite memory from growing up in the church?
Lock-ins. I knew someone was gonna say that.
Russellmania.
Explain WrestleMania, Jared.
Russellmania. We used to go in where we do the food pantry, and they used to put masking tape on the floor in between those really big pillars, and those were the boundary lines. And Russ would get into the dead center of the square, you know, obviously when he was a young buck, and we would all get in the square, and he would just start chucking kids out of the square. It was great, rug birds and all kinds of stuff. So it was fantastic.
Dog piles.
Dog piles, yeah, it was great. Fondest memories was going to Pittsburgh on the missions trip. You know, and I think everybody's gone, you know, and I think, so here's your example of a Christian family. I went to church camp at 12, Uncle Randy took me. I went to Pittsburgh, Uncle Randy took me, Dad took me, and Brian, Mom went along, you know, and it was like, that's what family does.
I think some of my favorite memories was, I was probably in elementary school when we would have, at that time we had youth group, but it was called Whirlybirds and Jet Cadets. And you wore a hat with a little beanie that spun. If you was a whirlybird, which was the younger ones. And Bill and Catherine Orn, they were our youth leaders or leaders of that. And I think that was some of the fun times.
What is one of the most important lessons taught to you, and what do you want to see passed down to your family?
I think because we live like almost in our own compound here, you know, and we're there for each other. And I just think, I'm going through some issues now, but I'm dependent on them in many respects. And maybe at one time, Holly and Jerry were dependent on me or my brother, whatever, Sue, my mom. And, you know, we always made it work. You know, as Christians, we were there for each other, you know, and that means a lot.
I think some of the maybe the strongest one for our family anyway, I think lesson instilled is giving, whether it's, you know, monetarily or of your time. I just feel like that's what we do as a family for each other, for the church. I feel like, you know, Graham and Pat were always around. I mean, they just seemed to always be available. Didn't matter what they were doing, they would drop what they were doing if we needed something. I don't remember a sporting event that everybody wasn't to, and they're still going. I'm not even playing anymore, and I'm coaching, and they're all going to. You know, so I mean, like that's to me that makes a difference. I remember. I know just a specific. I can remember Dad and Pat specifically talking about tithing, and you know, when I was old enough to get money, and then, you know, talking about what you give to church and what you give to God, and then that kind of branched off, and you know, Mom was more of a giving of your time. She emphasized more of, you know, giving that to the church. And so I think just in a whole, you know, that kind of giving atmosphere was really from all sides.
What does your family's legacy of faith mean to you?
Well, I feel very appreciative of the role models, the life lessons, whether they, you know, needed a soft touch or an iron fist. I think that to me, I'm grateful that for all the time and effort put in, you know, because I'm sure that I thought we were easy kids to raise, but Mom and Dad might, you know, differ in that opinion, and Uncle Randy and Graham. So Graham probably does.
I had that same opinion of myself when I was a kid too.
I know I was a perfect angel. That's the mom. Ask Diana Condo. She will tell you I'm a perfect angel and I can be bribed with red velvet cake.
Yeah, I do. I'm appreciative of the time spent, because some families don't spend time. Yeah, and they don't sit together. I'm so thankful that Mom and Dad redid their kitchen so that we eat supper together. We've been told that that's weird, that who eats with their family every single night of the week. And I mean, like, it's something that our kids are gonna remember. I mean, like, that families don't get to do that. So I'm thankful that we continue to do everything together.
So you definitely say it takes a village to raise your family, huh?
Yeah, it's not it's just not 2 people or 4 people or whatever. It takes a whole congregation.
That's why so many stick around at Blanchard.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
It's definitely grown in my lifetime. I'm curious to see and excited to see where it's gonna go. So, I mean, I think the church is a driving force in the community, and you know, it's involved in a lot of different things. It's got a lot of people in it that are involved in a lot of different things, and I think that's a good bleed over into our area, into Clinton, Center County, and places like that. When you've got good people, they come from a good foundation that are out working.
That's where, you know, prayer and faith comes in. That you know that they're getting raised right and they're gonna make the right decisions and stuff like that. Yeah.
I'm excited that the church is still there and it's still, you know, vibrant and is still now teaching my grandchildren, and that I can participate in that, which I really appreciate. So I like to make sure that I help to continue things that we do in the church. So whether it be the shoe boxes or the drama or Sunday school, that I want my grandchildren to benefit from it and other people's children.
Is there anything else you would like to share about a Christian marriage and family?
I just don't think it can be emphasized enough, and not that our family's perfect by any means, but I don't think it'd be emphasized enough about how much importance you can put on family and faith and Jesus, and they all go together. And if they don't all go together, then your family's not going to be what it could be. I just think that I worry that the world that we live in just pulls us in so many different directions that aren't towards Jesus, and I think that we are so easily swayed by that, whether it's by finances or what we watch or the activities that we do. I mean, we're busy people, and you know, sometimes I think that this virus is here to slow us down, to get us refocused on what it is that is important. And I've always kind of thought, you know, wondered if that was the point, you know, is to get our focus back on Jesus and back on family and back on the important things in life. So I just think if anybody was watching and you know, they wondered what, you know, what's life about, this is, I would like to say this is it.